And now here's part 2 of our episode.
Yes. It's so good.
It is so good.
It also is one of those songs that, I mean, I know we talked about the music videos earlier, but there is like an indelible image to me of him, like in that, I mean, whatever that sound stage was that he designed to look like another world, and just the images of like, of the doves actually flying away. But I just, not so much the doves is what sticks with me. What sticks with me is him, like as the central image of the world.
I just feel like the whole song feels like an undulation. Like you're just doing a body roll over and over and over again. It's like, yeah, this just feels good. Like, I don't want this to end. And that's, I think, like the wheels of a train, we're just going to keep going. It's awesome. Just one this.
There's I wish our listeners could see the choreography that's happening here, but I think
there was a physical element. Yeah. You can have you'll have 2.5 choo-choo trains on the board now too for the moves. Choo-choos.
Well, it's hard.
I love them.
It's hard to like not move when you're listening to a Prince song, right? I mean, you don't just sit and like, oh, that's nice. Like, it's not, he's not that kind of artist.
I did read that it sounds like the physicality of him as a performer really did take its toll on his body, and that is something that we also take for granted with artists. I think is just how much they're like athletes in that way, where they put their body on the line every night to go on tour if they're a touring artist, and that is wicked.
Yeah,
especially him.
Like, as a person who wears heels, I do not wear them every day. I do not. And this person wore heels almost every day. And I cannot image his feet. Like, the absolute toll that takes to stand in those shoes.
Yeah.
I am in awe.
Like ballet dancer level, like feet work is going on there.
And he would do like splits and turns and jump off of things into splits. And I saw him in concert, and he mostly sat in a chair for most of it. It was with my sister, and that we were dancing, I think, because we were like, he's sitting, someone has to move.
That's, I think one of the other things that was so funny to learn more, you kind of know these big, we have these big milestones about Prince's career in our heads. I feel like as a people, like the changing his name to the symbol and the particularly the kind of sexual energy that was just runs through all of his work. And the Tipper Gore affair is such a beautiful chapter in the story of Prince, I think. Imagining Tipper and Al Gore's daughter listening to Darling Nikki in a room, and Tipper Gore's horrified face when she hears it is one of my favorite things to think about right now.
So I'll name it as mine now.
I'm kind of curious. I know you sort of alluded to this earlier, Tai, but let's acknowledge the Darling Nikki in the room here. I mean, listening to that, I know you said that your mom, you watched Purple Rain together, but I mean, what about when that song came out?
Well, because I've seen many movies with my parents that I feel like are gut-wrenchingly awful when you think about that. And I feel like that was one of the first ones of like, oh, this is how we shall handle this situation from now on. We will just stare at the thing and not look at each other is what ends up happening. And then usually what my father does is he points out something that has nothing to do with the action that's in front of you. So like, it's like, that light over there, that's very bright. And you go, oh yeah, that light is very bright, while Prince is like humping the piano or whatever it is, or the speaker, and like gyrating off into the air. But I feel like with Darling Nikki, what I also remember was that I recognized that it was like a revenge song. I recognized that. And something about that was like, yeah, if somebody ever does me wrong, we're going to write about it and make sure people know about it. And maybe that's also how I handle like exes and things like that, of like, oh, okay, you're going to do that? Well, now everyone's going to know this.
Oh, no.
I feel like he gave me onus. He gave me power.
This is a question I was going to ask earlier. Was I wonder? I mean, do you as a theater artist or just artist in general? I mean, can you pinpoint or recognize ways in which Prince and or just Purple Rain have influenced your work or the way that you look at the world as an artist?
Yes, and in that there's, I mean, his whole life feels like theater. And that's, I know that, he's just a human and he probably just lived day to day, but also the absolute magistry of it all, the smoke, the mirrors, the drum, that feels like heartbeat situations of like, all right, I'm walking into this thing and I'm gonna experience, and then it's like dun 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 dun, like it's like, oh, all right, here we go, we're gonna do something. And it I feel like I approach, maybe not with that playing every day, I don't want to give him that much credit to my everyday life, but I do think that it can feel a bit like a I don't know what the word is. It is personal soundtrack. It can feel like that. And as an artist that normally deals with a lot of rejection, that there's an element to his music that feels like, now you can get up and do it again. And that's what the whole movie too is about. It's like getting up and doing it again. To ascend to something that's greater. And I don't know what that greater is, not just yet, but I feel like he's pushing us along, even though I know it's like religious and he had a little bit of religion in all of the things, but I can take it for my and what am I? Not atheist. I'm agnostic. I am agnostic. In my agnostic ways, I can feel like it's leading me towards something better than self.
Yeah, I see that. And the instinct to like touch the divine is so clear. It's so clear from what he says and what he does. Like he really puts action to those words too, in his creation and all that. So no wonder it feels religious to even just engage with him. On a purely technical level, you mentioned earlier how you kind of nowadays experience this album sort of song by song based on what you're looking for. But I wondered if we're talking front to back, are there any skips on this album?
I don't have like the complete list in front of me. Wait, Ty,
Okay.
think through.
I can read them off to you if you want me to.
No.
No?
I think, all right.
I'm ready. We're ready.
You mentioned Computer Blue before. I want to say I truly skip it.
Really?
I think I truly skip it.
Interesting.
I think I have to be in the right place for Darling Nikki as well. I have to be in I'm walking down the street and I want no one to mess with me. Mood.
Yeah. And
To listen
so
to
does that contribute to its perfectness, or do you feel like it's an exception?
Oh no, it contributes to it, because I feel like if I'm like, driving somewhere and I know I'm going to be on the road for a long period of time, this album's on it. The whole thing, no skips. So it's nice to remember that they exist on it, and it's nice to remember the feelings that are associated with them. They're not bad. It's just I'm trying to probably live my life bopping about, and I don't want to be thinking about the revenge that I want to play on someone. So I'm not going to play certain things. Yeah.
At certain times, yeah.
It is the album that has the most recognizable hits too. Because I was going through the discography again just to see where, because I don't remember what order they all came out. I don't remember where Raspberry Beret is or where 1999 was in the order. But of all the albums, this one has the most. If you have any knowledge of music from the 1980s, like you know at least half of this album, even if you haven't heard the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's true. I think I even in experiencing it, I remember being like, oh, I know this song, and oh, I know this song. So they were part of my brain space before hearing, oh, they all came together. What a good album to get.
It seems like a great return on investment. So I guess I also want to know, if we're talking about what a perfect album is, because that is the brief of this tribunal. When we gave you that brief, what sort of criteria ran through your head in terms of like what is a perfect album?
So I'll tell you, because I laughed at myself when I thought about like what my actual list was. It was I'm gonna say it is ridiculous. Did I dance enough to it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there had to be things that I truly danced to.
Yeah.
Are there songs that I remember wholly? And by that, I mean like all words, music, ups, downs, lefts, and rights. And could I ascribe memory to them? Because I think that I don't know if you had given me the questions for this or not, but I think that I was like, it must have a memory related to this somehow of how important it means to me for it to rank higher on this list. And then finally, the last thing was just that, is it an artist that really speaks to me? And that feels silly, because I think all artists touch us in different ways or whatever. And as a theater artist, I'm like, I hope I touch everybody I see. I hope everybody is having these podcasts about me.
Right.
But yeah, I felt like I had to think of people who I think shaped my being, and he's one.
Yeah. Well said.
Are there other memories? You mentioned the memory, and I know we talked about your first memory, but are there other memories of this album that you'd care to share? Which I think I'm gathering from, yes. Are they okay to share?
Yes, they're okay to share. Just because I'm embarrassed doesn't mean it's not okay to share.
Well said. Yeah.
I feel like again, back to the feelings and having hormones. I think when I associated sexual feelings and things like that, I was like, Prince, I get it. And as a person who is like newly trying out sexuality and trying to gain some sort of feeling of, am I attractive or not? I was like, then this has to be on. This kind of music must be on. when I'm having the deeds, when I'm doing the deeds.
That's specifically right. Okay.
So some songs would be played in my playlist if especially in college, of like, haha, you've come to my room. I have gathered you here today to witness this thing called relations. And so the memories are literally like me being like, haha, I figured out how to gain people to my boudoir. And I think in my head also I was like, there's rhythm. I know how to keep people on a rhythm, and I know that like we can do this together somehow. And that's really the memories that I have.
Wow. You get this album came out in 1984. You get 1,984 points for Welcome to This Thing Called Relations.
I think she should also get the whole rhythm section. I think that should also be on the scorecard.
Oh, it's down. It's down. You get the whole rhythm section. Oh my word. Oh my word, Tai.
So it's not embarrassing. It's just more like you're not to say like, oh, you're young and you don't know, like that music probably has nothing to do with the reason why the person is staying in your room or even came to your room. But I was like, somehow Prince is gonna make sure this person stays and comes back.
Yes.
You know what I find, and I don't know if you have any insight into this, what I find so strange is that, I mean, I just think, when I think Prince, I immediately think sensuality and sexuality. Like, it's hard to not attach those things. Yet he famously did not like people to swear at all. Is that correct? Like, I guess how do you reconcile those two things, if you even reconcile them at all?
I don't reconcile them. I think that in my brain, I'm like, that's it. He can be multifaceted, and I choose to only focus on one aspect of him. Even going to that concert, like, there are women who were, and not just women, every person in that audience was throwing something at him. And his nonchalantness of like, I don't want any of that. and just knowing that, like, no matter what, that even that push away was like enticing to someone of like, I want that too. I just want someone who doesn't want to touch me. And I can reconcile it in that he brought out feelings in me, and that could be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't like cursing. He stopped saying certain words in the song sometimes too.
Yeah. Well, there's a real, what we were talking about, touching the divine earlier, in that kind of religious aspect to it. It feels like for him it seems to me like his connection to what he's trying to express seems to be divine to him. There's no vulgarity about it. It doesn't feel like there's vulgarity about his sexuality, whereas foul language does feel like it fell into his vulgar pot, which those are so I think it feels like we've been conditioned to think that the sexuality part of it is vulgar, instead of something to be celebrated.
Yeah. I think also in even I'm thinking of the memory of watching it with my parents, of like, this hypersexual moment of Darling Nikki, of feeling like, again, I'm watching something that they probably like, we haven't explained this to her yet, and we really should have, and we are really bad at parents and should probably think about that again. But I'm watching it going, wow, that is gyration. Oh, interesting. Like, I don't think I had computed what it was. So I extricated it from the sexual and just made it into, emotion that's interesting. It's doing feelings. I'm feeling feelings, but like, I don't know what that is. So it's just interesting to me.
Yeah.
He also uses, I think the reason like it struck me so much is because, well, you know, listening to Darling Nikki, he uses the word grind a lot, like as like that's the acceptable term to use.
So we think of some albums as breakup albums, right? We think of some albums as falling in love albums. I mean, those things are, you know, they're all sides of the same coin, right? But I think I definitely have ideas about what albums are for specific kind of things, or specific kind of experiences. Is there something that you would say this album is perfect for, like in that sort of vein?
I feel like we said transcendence enough. I feel like there's something soul opening. But not in like a not in a Zen sort of way. I want to say it's an album to find the next level. It's something that constantly ups your awareness, it ups your humor, it ups your attention to loved ones, it ups your expectations for what this life could be about. That's how I think of it. It just builds upon itself instead of, I don't think there's something that's sad about it. I don't think there's something uplifting, but I do think that there's building blocks.
Yeah. Well, he held himself to such high standards, clearly, and somebody as prolific as he is, like having potentially dozens of finished, produced albums just sitting somewhere that they're just in a box essentially, and like something like 50 music videos, fully produced music videos, they're just sitting out there. Like that kind of person clearly has their eye on something, like is trying to answer a question for themselves. And do you feel like that is something you respect in artists? Like, is there that sort of you don't want to call it obsession, but that sort of drive and that sort of like gut level drive that makes them create in the way that they do? Is that a factor in your appreciation for him?
I think in his case, yes. I think like I'm even thinking of other albums by other artists right now that I think I just like for fun, but this particular artist feels like I care about the orchestration, I care about the words, and I care about the groove. So it's like the whole story, the whole book is what I'm all about, instead of like, no, I like this chapter. Like it's because I feel like it's pretty all around.
I like what you said about the transcendence and that sort of opening and the sort of like gesture that accompanied that. Because I just think about, my favorite part of the whole album, frankly, is at the very, very end. Like as Purple Rain is sort of not disintegrating, but it feels like it's becoming a new thing. And like just the sort of harmonies that the violins are playing. At this point, I'm like to acknowledge I'm contractually obligated to mention the band Radiohead at some point during every episode. And it sounded to me like it was entering Radiohead territory before Radiohead even existed. Like it just
they were entering Prince territory, probably.
Possibly. It's and I tried to describe it to some, because a friend of mine who also recorded an episode with us, I was just talking about the album with her, and I'm like, what's happening at the end of the album? Like I can't define it. I don't know what's going on. And she's like, yeah, that's how good it is.
Yeah, I think there's something of like, we're going to sit in this. We're going to sit in the symbols and like just cooing, the cooing of Prince to us, the different oohs. and
Mhm.
and you're just gonna like live in the purple. We're
Yeah.
gonna live in the purple of it
Yeah.
until it's done.
Right. And you think he when you're talking about his voice specifically, that it reminds me of, I mean, just an unreal all-timer voice, I think, in popular music. Just one of the very best of popular music of all time. And it's like if he would have not had as great of a voice, but still written the kick-ass music, it would have still probably been really incredible. But the fact that he has both and the physical presence is like, that is such a rare alchemy, and the only person who I know Michael and I love, who has a voice that feels like it has a comparable range, is Chris Cornell, which is funny because he does a fantastic Prince cover. But there's that just insane range that he's able to occupy, and he shows all of it in Purple Rain.
And I want to say, in all of his songs, I feel like he like tricks us of like, haha, you think this is going to be a high pitched sound, and then he goes real deep, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, thank you for making sure that I am not just leaning back, that I have to constantly like jump forward just a little bit.
Right.
It feels like a little, like he's yeah, it's a little trick, like surprise.
And there's so
That's
little,
very much his energy.
There's so little that surprises us in art these days, so it's good when artists can do that. Tyler, I think it's about time for us to tally up the scorecard, and then and Ty will give you a final opportunity to make your case.
Yeah.
Tyler, do you want to review the score first?
I do, and I want to tell the assemblage that I know I've been very biased today. I acknowledge that is something, but I feel like this has been this experience of revisiting this album has been a gift. And so I have no shame in saying that this is a heavily, you weighed this, you put your finger on the scales, Ty, in choosing this album, just so you know. But we'll start with the score that you gave me for my 60-second recap, which was a 10 out of This One Goes to 11. Very much appreciated that. I'm very proud of my work. And then we're gonna walk from the beginning of the points you got. The first points on the board were 6 Wendy's and 6 Lisas each. So bless them, all 12 of them. Then you got one big fat is for When Doves Cry is the standout track on the album. You got 2.5 choo-choo trains for the dance moves that were simply provoked in you, that you could not stop.
I'm doing them now.
Yes. You got 1,984 points for getting through this thing called relations. And to top it all off, you got the whole damn rhythm section. So, Michael, considering the points that are on the board, would you say that Purple Rain by Prince is a perfect album?
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I just want to give Ty the opportunity. Is there anything else that you think our listeners need to know before we give it our final decree?
I feel like looking at the songs that start, the song that starts, that is Let's Go Crazy, and then looking at the final song, which is Purple Rain, I think you get the whole breadth of what you're about what you're going to deal with. Something that's very upbeat and pretty like funky, wild, not like you think it's going to be a dance party, to a slow, sophisticated, transcendental, oohs and ahs moment with people screaming in the background sometimes. That is the entire album in a nutshell, without hearing anything in the middle. And I feel like if you've got 2 nice pieces of bread, then the sandwich is yummy.
Yeah. The sandwich, the bread is an underrated part of a sandwich, for sure. Well, Michael?
Well, then I think I do love bread, so I think I think Purple Rain is in fact a perfect album.
Yes. Yes, well said, Ty. Well made case today. And thank you so much for your time and your energy and your love, because that is, I think, if Prince was here with us today, he would agree that it was love that brought us together.
I hope so. I hope he feels my love, and whenever I meet him in the next place, I hope he accepts the last name of Verley.
Brought it back around.
So, Michael, you want to introduce the song that we're going to play out on?
Oh, I do. Because I think it is the only song that we can play out the entire episode on, and that is the title track, the final song on the album, that is Purple Rain. Thanks for joining us, everybody.